England have just beat Slovakia 2-1 in the round of 16 of the Euros, and they needed extra time to do it. We left it very, very late to show any sort of energy or intensity in the match. Probably up until 80th, 85th minute, there was nothing. It was very poor, and it was an extremely hard watch for as an England fan. Luckily, we did get saved by a moment of brilliance from Jude Bellingham. 95th minute overhead kick equaliser. I mean, it does not get more clutch than that. What a boy, and it shows the mentality. I think he's got 5 goals now past 90 minutes. For club and country, which just shows that he keeps his belief. He keeps his concentration right until the end, and he's a big game player. And he goes until the end. He has a strong, strong mentality. And then, of course, we used that momentum very well. Stayed on the front foot in the early stages of extra time. Got the goal with Harry Kane, and it was fairly, fairly comfortable for the rest of the match. Now, with that Jude Bellingham goal, okay, for me, Gareth Southgate, he deserves some credit for that. Okay, he's been taking a lot of criticism, and rightly so, for who he's been playing and where he's been playing them and the tactics and everything like that. So he did deserve it was deserved criticism, but now, in my opinion, he deserves a bit of credit for keeping Jude Bellingham on that pitch. I didn't want him to start that match. The fact he did start, I wanted him to come off when Phil Foden got dragged off. I didn't think Foden should have been the one. Foden looked like he was trying to make something happen. He was getting the ball, a bit more energy than Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham didn't really look too interested. He looked very tired and he weren't doing a lot. So I would have taken him off. I know a lot of other people weren't happy with his performances in that game and previous. So the fact that Gareth Southgate has stuck with his guns and he's kept players on Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, that regardless of how they're playing, he's kept the players on that can produce the moments, can produce the moments in the high pressure, big situations. And that's what's happened. He's stuck with his guns. He's left a player on that's got the ability to produce their moments, and he produced it. So we love slacking Southgate off when he does something wrong. The fact he does it right, we need to now give him a bit of praise. It can't be slag the manager off when he does it wrong and praise the players when it goes right. You can't just have it. Managers always wrong, players always right. You've got to be the same both ways. So a bit of credit for Southgate, deservedly, and of course Jude Bellingham. Now, guys, before we carry on, today's sponsor of the podcast is Plus Coffee. Now, for me, myself, I've been a professional footballer for my whole life. And I know the one thing that I want from a coffee brand and an energy drink, anything like that, is I want to not have an energy spike or an energy dip. I want it to be long lasting, sustained energy. And Plus Coffee have done absolutely that. So if you do think that'll be a bit of you, please use my link in the description below for 10% off. But in terms of the game, like I mentioned, it was a poor performance. It was flat. What went wrong? Now, for me, you can talk about the tactics and who's playing where. Trippier not being a left-footed left back, Foden out wide. You can talk about all that, but above all, you need to talk about the mentality because that's number one. That's priority. If the mentality is not there, you can forget about all the other stuff. And the mentality wasn't there. It seems to me like it takes something in the game to go wrong for us to really show a bit of fight and character and put all of our 100% effort into something. 0-0, we're sort of cruising. We're trying to be too cool, calm, and collected and sort of go by the book. As soon as we go 1-0 down, it lights a bit of a rocket up our arse. And you definitely notice the change from 0-0 to 1-0 down. Not straight away, but as time was going on and it was getting closer to the end of the match, it starts, the intensity starts picking up a bit and we start giving a bit more energy. And in the last 10 minutes, it was just, we were throwing everything at it. Why can we not have that same intensity and energy and effort from the start? We need to find a way to get that motivation from minute one because we're going to be playing against Switzerland now in the quarterfinals, and they will be the best team we've played in this tournament by quite a way. The most informed team we've played in this tournament. And if we continue the way we're playing, the trend of the previous 4 games, we're going to get knocked out in the quarters. 100%. Something big does need to change. We cannot go through the whole what is it, 7, 8 game tournament, playing like that and expecting to win these games now where you do need to win now in the knockout stages. We can't be going with draws and risking everything on pens or extra time. So something needs to change, otherwise Switzerland will turn us over. And with the goal, for me, it's poor defending. It's lazy defending from Kyle Walker. He's not been at his best this tournament. He's normally so reliable and he's sort of our get out of jail free card at the back, especially in an England shirt. But he's been anything but that really this tournament, and he doesn't give us too much going forward. So there's definitely question marks over his name at the moment. And he was just lazy with the line. You know, he didn't even think about his positioning really. He was lazy is the only word I can describe it, and he's basically given him a free chance at goal. Another worrying sign for me during that game, and something that we should definitely raise alarm bells going into the Switzerland game is Slovakia. Like they should be coming into this game scared of England. Worrying about what we can do on the counter attack and thinking they haven't got a chance. Going up against our defence, but it was anything but that. They come at us the first 10. The game was open. They were having chances, and then they were happy after that to sort of get in two banks of four and say, "Come on in, come and beat us." And we couldn't really. They were comfortable with that. They got a 37-year-old at right back, and we couldn't even trouble him. We should get him running behind, running towards his own goal. That's what the defenders hate, and we couldn't do that. They seemed comfortable, weren't too concerned with what we could provide in any attacking threat wise. They thought they could nick something on the counter, and they did. So that's worrying signs for me. Now, in terms of the players that weren't 100% up to it, for me, Walker was definitely one. We've spoke about that. Kieran Trippier did not have a good game. I know he's not a left-footed player playing left back, but he still didn't look very assured on the ball. Still didn't link up with Foden very well. Still neglecting him a bit, opening up on that left foot. But we haven't even got a left-footed left back to replace him, which again just seems absolutely crazy. And it's just you've got to look at the manager for that. I know. I mean, who did we have to replace him when he come off? We had Saka playing left back. He's not a left back. We had Eze left back at one point. Then we had Konso, who's another right-footed player playing left back. So we've got to keep him in the team if he's fit. If not, it's got to be probably Konso or Joe Gomez. But it's not looking good for our defence at the moment, to be honest. With Gehi out as well, it's actually worrying signs. We started off the tournament assured at the back. And now you could look at that and say that's probably weaker than our attack. The other two players I didn't think were 100% up to it was Jude Bellingham. I know he scored the goal and he's got all the headlines now, and it's very easy to paper over the cracks that he's shown. But he has been poor for the last 3 games now within the 90 minutes. He has. He's not. He just looked tired, picking and choosing when he wants to run, not actively looking to get on it in the right areas for me as that number 10. And I think Foden's been better, and I'd like to see Foden in the middle. But like I mentioned earlier, he does produce the moments when they matter. So maybe it's a case of bringing him on instead of starting him, bringing him on in the vital moments if we need it. And then Bukayo Saka, he's been probably just average this tournament. He's not been at his brilliant best, direct, positive, beating players all the time, bar the first game. And Cole Palmer's come on and looked lively every single time. So now that's a serious question. Does Cole Palmer deserve to start? For me, I'd like to see that. I would like to see Cole Palmer starting. I'll get onto that a bit later, but that's definitely a question now because Saka he's not been good enough. Another thing that went wrong for me, Southgate is making his subs too late, far too late. I think the first sub we made was like somewhere late 60th minute, and that was Cole Palmer to come on. He should have come on at half time, in my opinion. Saka was poor. He should have come on at half time. It would have changed the game a lot earlier. And then the second sub was 80 something minute, and then we didn't make some until after the 90. So it's far too late, in my opinion. You've got to just read the game and be brave in your subs. Half time, you could see it was flat. The energy was off. It needed a change. It's not just going to happen with your team talk, as it was evident to see. And maybe if he thinks he can get into the players at half time, give them 5-10 after, and then chuck a player on, but it's far too late bringing him on just before the 70th minute. However, the positives in the game, there were some. Although a lot of England fans weren't happy with the 90, there was some positives in the game. For me, the subs that come on were positive. Cole Palmer, like I just mentioned, changed the game. Very direct, can beat a player, can keep possession well, positive. Ivan Toney, the ball can come into him. He holds it up very well. He's very aggressive with the defenders. Always wins, seems to win his 1v1 battles, and he brings others into play very, very well. Better than Harry Kane has so far, who's looked a bit off the pace. So that's very positive, and that's something we need to utilise in the game against Switzerland, definitely. And for me, another positive sign is, like I mentioned earlier, we showed intensity and energy in the last 5-10 minutes of the game. You know, when we were getting a bit desperate, and it shows that it's in there. You know, it shows we have the ability to do that. We just need to find a way now to get the players doing that at the start of the match, and not just doing it when we're desperate at the end of a match and we're going for broke. So it is in there. We just need to get it out. Now, in terms of the players I mentioned who weren't really up to it in that game, how I would change it, I would, as I said, I'd bring Saka off. Okay, I think it'd be great to have Saka's energy and pace later on in the match, and I'd start Cole Palmer on that right hand side to keep the width, but also have excellent link up play and be very positive and direct with his play. He makes things happen every time he's on the ball. He deserves his place now to start, and then that means for me on the other side, I'd have the player who's willing to run in behind and turn the defence, which is Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon's got to be on that side. And then we've got Saka to come on. You know, I wouldn't start both of them because you need a pacey player to come off the bench. And then does that mean Phil Foden gets dropped? Not for me. Foden for me goes in the 10, as I mentioned. Jude Bellingham comes off the pitch because I think he's better in the late stages of a game, Jude Bellingham, for England anyway. That's what's been evident in this tournament. And Phil Foden is better in the earlier stages when he can sort of get on the ball in the middle of the pitch and get us going, get things ticking, and bring a bit of energy in that middle of the park. You know, he gets in the right pockets where Jude Bellingham roams about. He's more of a roamer and does it all, but everywhere. We want Phil Foden to be hard to pick up in the gaps between the defence and the midfield. Now there's the question with our back four. Do we bring Trent in? Because Walker, like I said, he's not been that really assured defensive player that we're used to seeing in an England shirt from him. He's been a bit vulnerable at the back and doesn't give nowhere near as much going forward as Trent does. So if they're both now giving similar, they're both on a level playing field in terms of the defensive ability, is it a case of chucking Trent in at right back to give us that extra creativity going forward and an extra world-class player with the ball at his feet? For me, it is Trent at right back, Trippier if he's fit at left back, and then obviously it's a case of Mark Gahey's out, who goes alongside John Stones. I don't really mind. I think it will be Lewis Dunk, just going off the fact of our previous games and our previous England camps when we've played the second team or the second centre back. Gareth Southgate seems to lean on him a bit more than Konsa in that central area or Joe Gomez. Now it's time to forget about that game in terms of our disappointment, and we've got to be positive now going into this quarter final. Get behind the team, get behind the manager, positive mental attitude going into it. And listen, with some changes that need to happen and some mindset changes that need to happen, we can definitely do it. You know, it makes you think: is it written in the stars now? The fact that we've got through that game when we played poor, and and we still ended up getting the job done. We've played poor all tournament, yet we're in the quarterfinals. So it makes you think: is it going to be our tournament? And I hope it is.